Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to show you how to turn this design that I created in Canvas Workspace into a stitch design using Embroidery's Stitch Artist Level 2. I did show in a recent video how to use any of your designs that you've created in Canvas Workspace and turn them into a stitch file. I'll try and remember to link that at the end. But I've seen lots of people creating these kind of embroidery stitch files, and I've also seen people asking how is it done. You can do it directly in Embroidery, but if you're used to using Canvas Workspace, it's so quick and easy to create your design in Canvas Workspace, export your FCM file, and then open that in Embroidery Stitch Artist Level 2 and add stitches. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. I'm just going to move that off to the side for now. Now, a lot of these designs are stitched quite big on the front of, sweatshirts or t-shirts. To give you an idea of scale, the first thing I'm going to do is come up to the shapes box in Canvas Workspace and I'm going to select square. I'm going to come over to the right hand side under the edit tab. And by the way, this is all done in Canvas Workspace for computer because, as you will be aware if you follow my channel, Canvas Workspace Online is being discontinued from October the 1st. So going forward, all my videos are going to be made using the downloadable computer-based version. So with my square selected and I'm on the Edit tab, I'm going to come up to the top where it says width and height. I'm going to make sure that maintain aspect ratio is not checked. In the width, I'm going to type 12, and in the height, I'm going to type 8. That is basically just going to give me an idea of scale, because if I was stitching this out, I would use my 12 by 8 magnetic hoop. This is just, as I said, just for an idea of scale. So now I'm going to come over to the text icon on the left, select text, left click once on my page, and I'm going to type a capital letter H and hit return. And then I'm just going to drag this out to make it bigger. Okay, so to give you an idea of size, you can see that over here, it's 5.48 inches wide and 7.65 inches tall. And because I created this design that I showed you a few minutes ago in pink, it's remembered the font I used. So the font is called Bouncy. I have a feeling I may have got this from Creative Fabrica or DeFont, I can't remember. But I will try to remember to leave a link under the video in the description. If I forget, just check either of those two sites and type in the word Bouncy and you will hopefully find it. So now I want to create my word. So again, I'm going to select the text icon, left click on the page, and in lowercase, I'm going to type the word hope. Now obviously again it's going to remember this font, but I used a different font for the word hope. So the font I used was called Barbie Script. Again, if I can link it, I will put it in the description of the video. I'm going to drag it just over to the left, and using the circle icon at the top, when I hover over it with my mouse, it turns to a directional arrow. I'm just going to drag that around using my mouse from the top left hand corner. It doesn't really matter which, but I'm going to drag this out a bit more and then I'm going to bring this down. Might make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so to give you an idea again of size of that one, it's saying it's 4.78 by 4.91. Now before I do anything else to this design, with this word hope selected, still under the edit tab over on the right hand side, I'm going to come down to the bottom where it says process overlap and I'm going to choose the first option, which is weld, and that's just going to weld all those letters together for me. Now with the word hope still selected, at the bottom under process overlap you've got the offset button. I'm going to select offset. Again, all my options have been saved because I've literally just made this design. So I'm using a spacing of 0.36. I'm using outward. I'm using corner type round because obviously this is a curvy word, if you like. It's got curves on it rather than angular. Selected original line I'm going to leave as is, and I'm just going to make sure that this box down here, create an offset line only around the outer edge, is selected, because that's all I want. I just want an outline going around this word. So I'm going to say OK. Now that's put the outline around it, and it's the outline that's selected. So without doing anything else, I'm now going to press the Shift key down on my keyboard, and I'm going to select the letter H. So that is now selecting the H and the offset that I've just created. Again, now at the bottom of the edit menu, under Process Overlap, this time I'm going to use subtract. And the reason I'm using subtract is because I want to punch this offset out of this part of the H, and the offset is on top. So when I use subtract, that will punch the offset out of the letter. So now if I just left click anywhere on the page to deselect, you'll see now that my original word hope that I typed and welded sits now within this cutout part of the letter H where the offset was. And now I can get rid of the rectangle because as I said at the beginning, this was only used to give me an idea of scale, so that when I come to stitch this in my 8x12 hoop, I know that it will fit. So I can select that and hit delete. I can select both of these and just move them into the middle of my page for now. And then I'm going to select the original one I did, which is off the mat here, and hit delete. Because if I try to export this with that still off the mat, it will tell me that the shapes extend beyond the red dotted line. So from here now, I'm going to go to the very top of the page where it says Brother Canvas Workspace, and to where it says File, and then I'm going to come down to Export/Transfer FCM File. This box will open. I want the first one, Export FCM File. I'm not sending it to the machine. I'm not sending it to Artspira because I don't use it. I just want to export this ScanNCut file to my computer so that I can use it in a few minutes in Embroidery. So I'm going to choose that. I'm going to leave it as untitled.fcm for now, and I'm going to make sure that I save it on my desktop so I know where it is, and hit the word save. So from here now I can come to Embroidery Stitch Artist. I'll leave that one there for now. I'm going to go to new page. That's going to create me another tab here. So here's my first one. This is the tab I've just created. You won't need to do this. You can just, open up your Embroidery Essentials and, drop it onto your page. I've already got my 8x12 hoop selected. Yours may look like this initially. To get to the Stitch Artist options, you need to come up to this icon here, which looks like zigzag stitches in an arc, and that's the Create button, and that will then bring up all your Stitch Artist features. Now you do need Stitch Artist level 2 to be able to import a vector file. So I'm going to come to vector, I'm going to navigate to my desktop, and I'm going to find Untitled and open. And here is the design I just created in Canvas Workspace. So I'm going to select the H first. Now there's a lot of stitches here that are maybe unnecessary stitches. I did show, I think, in the previous video how to get rid of these, but I will just quickly do it again. But if I'm going too quick for you, go I'll try and link that previous video where I used a design from Canvas Workspace, because I'm sure I went into it in more depth. But the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to zoom in, press the space bar on my keyboard until I see the hand, and then I'm just going to drag this down so that I can see these stitches better. I'm going to start dragging an imaginary bot around these nodes and hit delete. Then I'm going to come to this one here and right click and say curve. And I'm going to come to this one at the bottom and right click and say curve. And that should now enable me to move this line and make it a nice curve without having all those unnecessary nodes. I'm going to press the space bar down till I see the hand and drag the design up again, and I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to start with this one here. So I'm going to left click, drag up and around to select those nodes and hit delete. Now this is a straight line. If I move it, it just moves in a straight line. So let's undo that. So I'm going to left click on this node at the top, right click and make it a curve. And then I'm going to try and do the same at the bottom. So now when I drag this line, it curves it, and then I can use the handles to just clean it up a little bit. So now I'm going to do the space bar again, have a look at around the design. They look okay. I could get rid of some of them, but I'm going to leave all those. But there's a lot here in this short area which I don't need. So again, I'm going to left click and drag with them all highlighted, delete. Select this one at the top so it becomes a blue square, right click, make it a curve, and do the same with this one down here. Bend this line out a little, try and find the handle. I can probably get rid of that one. Node down a little, smooth curve, and then I'm just going to get rid of these few here. I'm going to click on the compass icon at the top and click H for hoop, and that brings me full screen, if you like, or to the full hoop. So from here now it's a case of applying stitches. So I'm going to select the letter H. So if I was going to stitch this out, I would get rid of a lot of these extra nodes here. For the sake of the video, I'm not, just to save on time. So I've got the H selected. I'm going to come to the colour swatch, left click. I'm going to choose a pale pink and say OK. And then I'm going to come up to the top of the screen and I'm going to use the fill icon, and that's going to fill that with stitches. Now by default, I think it defaults to tatami, so I'm going to leave it on that. And I'm going to leave the length and the edge stitch and everything else and the density as it is. You can play around with it if you want. One thing I will show you in my original, which I'll show you in a minute, you'll see that the tail of the P, when I did the offset in Canvas Workspace, it split these two sections in half. When you come to Embroidery Essentials and you're looking at how your design is made up, you'll see here I had the H and then there was this bit here which was this bit. Basically what you do is, if that happens, you just make sure you fill both sections. On this one, because the outline of the P, I must have positioned the word hope slightly inwards on the letter, so the outline of the P kind of touched this part of the H, which means that for this one it's all in one piece. That's the only difference. We're back to design number 2. I filled it with a tatami. Now I'm going to, you may be able to see at the bottom of here, this kind of like, I think it's called an artifact line. I believe from the research I've been doing that specifically if you're using a tatami stitch, you need to have your start and stop points at opposite points, if you like. So I'm going to hover over the green bow and I'm going to move my start point up here, and then I'm going to bring the stop over here and see how it affects this artifact. Okay, so by moving the stop point, it's kind of got rid of that. Let's go back to my original. So on this one, I put the start point up here and I put the stop point down here, and it gave me a perfectly filled in design. And then on this one, I did the same. I put the start point up here and the stop point down here, and that gave me a nice filled in design without that artifact line. So you do have to play around with it. Now I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm going to come to the word hope. I'm going to come over to the colour swatch. I'm going to change it to a deeper pink and say OK, and again I'm just going to fill it and click away, and you can see it's filled the word in. Again, if I want to move the start and stop points, you know, if I want to bring the start point down here somewhere, move the stop point, just wait for the software to catch up, and there's your design. Going back to the letter H, if you want to add a travel edge around it, you can do. Just when you're in the create mode, come over here to travel edge, and that will put a travel edge around it. And then if you want to go to the stitch simulator, just start stitching it out. You can see how it's going to fill in, doing its underlay, and then it goes into the other word. That's how it will stitch out. So as I say, same design, just slightly different result depending on how your offset line touches, you know, this left hand side of your letter. Neither's right, neither's wrong. It's just personal preference. If you don't like, you know, having this split up into two designs, when you're in Canvas Workspace, if we come back to Canvas Workspace and click undo, just be mindful that when you position a letter that's got, you know, something coming down off the bottom, that when you're adding your offset, it might interfere and split your letter up. So let's just redo that again. So can you see the offset here is more or less touching this part of the H, and that's why when I did the subtract, that's how this resulted. So basically, delete that, move this away a little, add your offset. You can see the offset doesn't touch this. Select the offset, select the letter, subtract, and now you'll see that this would be one piece like this. So obviously you would need to test stitch from here and see how this looks. Once you've test stitched it, if you're happy with it, then, you know, use it on your project. If you're not, come back to Embroidery Essentials, to your working file, and tinker about with your design. Make sure you're in create mode to get to where you want to be, and you can, you know, tinker with maybe either the density or adjust the stitch length, that kind of thing, or, you know, change the fill. It's up to you. I just use tatami because I think the tatami is one that's used quite a lot. I think it's the default when you come into the stitch editing part of Embrilliance, you know, when you're using the Stitch Artist levels. So that's today's video. I hope it was helpful. Leave any questions or comments underneath the YouTube video. Please give the video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.